I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cochran,
Present.
Commissioner Story, Commissioner Garavaglia, Commissioner Case,
Yep.
Mayor Messerschmidt.
Present. Reading approval of minutes, Mr. Case.
You have minutes from the June 9th meeting. Everything was fine to me, so if no one else has any other edits that need to be made to it, I make a motion to approve those as presented.
I second it. Commissioner Cochran.
Yes.
Commissioner Story,
Yes.
Commissioner Garavaglia. Yes. Commissioner Case.
Yep.
Mayor Messerschmidt.
Yes. Public property report, Commissioner Garavaglia.
Yes, I don't have any purchase orders, and the other thing that I have on here is to ask for approval of a road closure for the back-to-school block party that will take place. You should have a flyer, take place on August the 2nd from 4 to 7 p.m.
I did put a couple on the table back there too.
Okay. And the closing time will need to be a couple hours before and time afterwards.
So.
I make a motion that we close.
Commissioner Cochran.
Yes.
Commissioner Story,
Yes.
Commissioner Garavaglia,
Yes,
Commissioner Case.
Yes.
Mayor Messerschmidt.
Yes.
and I guess I should say that's Washington State.
Yeah.
If we don't know.
That way it's in the minutes. But yeah, that's becoming.
For the minutes.
And that's fastly becoming one of the more fun, more exciting. It's taking on a really neat street.
It really
feel.
is. I love having the block party. I love the location. I
Yep.
love the interaction with the departments.
Yep.
So
Yep.
It's,
That's growing into a pretty neat event.
it's a
so.
good way to kick off going back to school.
Cool, good. Streets and public improvements, Mr. Cochran.
We have 2 or 3 purchase orders here tonight. One is that we need to put up a fence, down at the water tower, $1,908.61. Make a motion to approve that.
Commissioner Cochran.
Yes.
Commissioner Story,
Yes.
Commissioner Garavaglia,
Yes.
Commissioner Case.
Yes.
Mayor Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Just one thing of note, everyone, that fence will be paid for out of the TIP funds. It's going around the propane tank of our repeater near State Bank of Whittington. It's been pretty unsightly for a little bit, so we're gonna finish that project up and close the door to that one. So just wanted to.
And that was part of our agreement with State Bank when we put it there, wasn't it?
It was.
The other one I have is additional equipment for the UV bulbs that are served for our surf lamp for $8,100. Make a motion to approve that.
I second it.
Commissioner Cochran.
Yes.
Commissioner Story,
Yes.
Commissioner Garavaglia,
Yes.
Commissioner Case.
Yes.
Mayor Messerschmidt.
Yes.
We need to buy another truck for our water department. We've got a 2014 Ford utility vehicle, $34,950. Make a motion that we approve that.
Second.
Commissioner Cochran.
Yes.
Commissioner Story,
Yes.
Commissioner Garavaglia,
Yes.
Commissioner Case.
Yes.
Mayor Messerschmidt.
Yes.
One thing with that, that's being paid for out of the leachate fund.
Leachate fund.
So that's of no direct cost to the taxpayers because that's the extra sewage that we're handling for other clients.
That
So
worked out real well for us.
yeah, it worked out really well.
The other thing we have is our first pay estimate on our water project down to the high school, from Jeff Wiggs excavating. And it's from our material stored. As you know, we did start the work down there. We're coming right along with it. $288,449.64. We'll get with Rodney, our engineer, to see, about, he's getting the funds and when the funds are coming in, but I'd like to go ahead and get that approved, so we start the motion getting it. $288,449.64 for Jeff Wiggs excavating.
Second.
Commissioner Cochran.
Yes.
Commissioner Story,
Yes.
Commissioner Garavaglia,
Yes.
Commissioner Case.
Yes.
Mayor Messerschmidt.
Yes.
Have several lake lot, I'm sorry, I have no lake lot leases, I have several pool adjustments. So I'd like to go over those. If you don't care, I'll read them all, each one. We have one for Kay Condrens at 1317 Whisper Way. We have one for Alice Donaldson at 405 North Buchanan Street. We have one for Janice Thomas at 1352 Whisper Way. We have one for Lindsay Odom at 707 Grand Street. We have one for Brittany Skaggs at 733 East Taylor Street. We have one for David Orr at 725 East Taylor Street. And Brandon Hossey, 524 Burkett Street. And Samantha Williams at 605 Election Street. And Michelle Eubanks at 809 North 9th Street. Make a motion to approve those adjustments, full adjustments.
Commissioner Cochran,
Yes.
Commissioner Story, Commissioner Garvelia,
Yes.
Commissioner Case,
Yes.
Mayor Massersohn.
Yes.
Okay, on item D, I'd like to table our full-time person for now.
Second.
Commissioner Cochran,
Yes.
Commissioner Story,
Yes.
Commissioner Garvelia,
Yes.
Commissioner Case,
Yes.
Mayor Massersohn.
Yes.
On item E, we'd like to hire a part-time employee for our street department, Matt Clark. He's been interviewed and superintendent's interviewed him, and we really need him in our street department. We're getting behind on the mowing. So we'd sure like to hire Matt Clark as in our street department. I make a motion, we do that.
And that's I'm sorry, that's just for the minutes, that's a block of hours
Yes.
at this point, correct?
It's 720. It's set by contract.
Is that the same as the fire? I mean, it's completely different.
It's completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're locked to 720 hours is what we had negotiated to. That it can be longer with approval from the city and the county.
Commissioner Cochran,
Yes.
Commissioner Story,
Yes.
there, 17,094.70. We need a first and second. Ford F-150. The bid was for $5,500, and we won. And so I just need a first, second, and approval on that one.
Make a motion that we purchase the 2014 Ford F-150 for $5,500.
Excellent.
Commissioner Tucker?
Yes.
Commissioner Story?
Yes.
Commissioner Garvelia? Commissioner Case?
Yes.
Mayor Masser?
Yes. Third purchase order, just update on Malkovich Park. We're coming closer. If you've not been by there and see the playground in there, it looks fantastic. It has the visibility that we've not had for some time, and some of the safety concerns have been addressed. It still needs a perimeter and some mulch put down in it, some rubber mulch for safety for the kids. But we are drawing closer to that. In our purchasing the flower pots, Brooke was able to find some that saved us a chunk of money from what we originally were approved to buy through the grant. And so the garden club has asked if we've got some additional pots. You see there that there's a purchase order through ePlanters for 8 garden tall planters for a total of $10,558. Need a motion to approve that, please.
Make that motion to approve these garden pots for $1,055.38.
Thank you.
Commissioner Tucker?
Yes.
Commissioner Story? Commissioner Garvelia? Commissioner Case?
Yes.
Mayor Masser?
Yes. Item C, discussion of approval of ordinance amending chapter 40 zoning ordinance to allow dwellings. I've got Mr. Calcaterri here, if you'd like to help us address that.
Sure.
Are you ready to do that?
Yeah, so this is in reference to, an amendment that was already passed to, allow for dwellings in business zone districts to be rebuilt in the event of a fire or natural disaster. And the council had, at the time, approved that we explore making this amendment. So Tom and I have sat down and actually put it into actual ordinance form. And we've also, had a hearing with the zoning and planning commission on the matter as well, and they gave their input, their recommendation. And so what you're looking at in front of you is the proposed ordinance would allow for dwellings to be rebuilt and reconstructed in the event of a natural disaster or fire destroying the existing dwelling. It may be reconstructed in its current category, single family, two family. So if you have a house that perishes because of a fire, you can't build a duplex. You have to rebuild, a single family, whatever type of category that is. And then the other thing would be, if the subject property is transferred to a new owner after the natural disaster or fire occurs, then the exemption is not applicable to the next person who comes along and purchases. They would have to abide by the zoning restrictions that are already in place. But this was something that we are doing to help our lending community in being able to insure mortgages for residential buildings that are located within business zone districts. So that's what kind of led to this whole thing.
Any discussion or just motion to approve that?
I'll make a motion to approve that ordinance number 225.
5.
That's fine, Brooke?
Yes. Commissioner Tucker?
Yes.
Commissioner Story? Commissioner Garvelia? Commissioner Case?
Yes.
Mayor Masser?
Yes, yes. You want to go ahead and address item D as well, and then we'll come back into finance? Is that okay?
That works for me.
Okay.
Yeah, so, this is one in your packet there. You have 3 bids. And, as part of case number 2025 OV 20 and 2021, or 21, those are, ordinance violations that, the city took, the plaintiff to court for several nuisance violations at the premises. And in the order, it says that the city does have the authority to remove the accumulation of trash, junk, and debris, if the owner of the property does not comply even or so to comply with that. They have not done so, and so our code enforcement officer Caleb has been kind enough to secure those bids to have that removed. Not sure if everyone has seen these pictures, but I have pictures of the violation as of today. Okay, so these are the pictures of what we're looking at. Some of you have taken a look at that. Caleb, do you have anything to add? I mean, you're really the one who's been working on the violation. Have I been pretty accurate in my reporting?
Ronnie pretty much covered it, given her qualified bill about over a year now to make some kind of progress, and even a month after the court order and still zero progress.
In fact, I might say that it's probably worse than it was, even when you started this case. From the pictures I've seen and from driving by the property a couple times myself, it's probably worse now.
So what is your recommendation for the council? There's 3 bids.
Yeah, my recommendation.
Some obviously there's some price differences between one of the 3.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference or recommendation?
I recommend taking the lowest bid. I don't have any issue with, any of the contractors and their ability to effectively clean the premises up.
So the low bid is Britain Lawn Service, $6,700. That's a low bid.
That's yeah, it's a little bit.
You make that motion.
I'll make that motion to, award the bid to Britain Lawn Care for $6,700.
Commissioner Cochran.
Yes.
Commissioner Story.
Yes.
Commissioner Garvelia.
When will it start?
That's the same thing, when they come
Immediately,
Okay.
probably in the next few days.
Okay.
So, just a couple of notes here, like, just from the finance side, like, this is the last, like, this is kind of at the end of the road for us, when it comes to this, for us to take this kind of action, and then, like, we're taking the low bid, and it's gonna cost nearly $7,000 of taxpayer money to go clean these lots up. Like, I completely agree, it's time. A lot of this crap has been so neglected for so long and put off that we have to do this. I assume once we are complete with this project and we have a final bill and we cut a check, we will place a lien on the property in an attempt to get the taxpayers their money back. Of course, there are a couple of caveats there that could result in us not getting our money back. We don't wanna waste all, so like, for us to come to this point, like, we've hit our breaking point. I know you guys out there in the crowd have hit your breaking point long ago, and I think you also understand and appreciate the process we have to go through, and I don't think that this council takes lightly that we have to go spend $7,000 of the taxpayers' money to go clean this lot up. But I think we're also to the point,
It has to be done.
we're pretty tired of seeing all y'all show up, and not just you guys, but others in the community, because we have nuisance properties that have to be addressed. Like, I want you to come to meetings. I want you to come to meetings to see the other things that we're doing, but we're doing what we can, as we can when we're given the judgment from the court. So, I know it's been a long road for you guys, and we appreciate your patience on the process.
Yes,
Like,
you matter to us, and
Yeah.
we've had this come before the council before where we voted no on taking the legal action because you can't legislate behavior and most likely it will continue. And at that point, we decided that it was best to put the money towards a permanent, remedy, which was the tear down of another house that needed desperately to be taken down. So it's hard, to determine what's the best way to spend the taxpayers' money, but this has reached that point where it's like, we've gotta do something. And we appreciate, bringing it before us.
And my department, we appreciate you empowering us and Caleb to be able to actually go and enforce the ordinances, because a lot of times people don't understand that,
Maybe make a difference.
we do try to get to, the end where it's clean, but when they don't do it, this is really the only thing we can do to make it.
Well, Well, and that's the one thing I like and seeing about Caleb is he's getting things done that's preventing more and more of this from happening. So my hope is his being proactive prevents us from having to be this type of reactive.
Yep.
So like, does he need a truck? Absolutely, let's buy him a truck. It's a better investment.
I'd like to commend you guys for what you've done on this, and Caleb,
This is all Caleb, I can't take
you're doing a
credit
great
for it.
job with this. You do a lot of stuff behind the scenes nobody knows about. You really do. You're going in doing inspections, you're trying to get some housing, I mean, you're doing a great job for us, and I know, we're seeing a big difference in our city, having you around.
I agree.
David Garavani and Tom Malkovich did the same thing on the property, and we voted, I voted against my husband, that was pretty hard. And I still hear about it, but yeah, this is
the
what
right
it is.
answer. Yeah, it's the right answer. All right. Back up to accounts and finance.
Yeah, sorry about my exodus.
All good?
We have some
Good.
better-ish audio, it's not a perfect deal, but you speak up, you can be heard. 7A, we have a payroll dated for June 20th, which was this past Friday, totaling $110,016.07, with $86,988.06 out of the general, and $24,236.56 out of the revenue fund. I make a motion to approve the payroll as presented.
Second.
Commissioner Cochran?
Yes.
Commissioner Story? Commissioner Garvelia? Commissioner Case?
Yes.
Mayor Massersohn?
Yes.
The last item I have, item 7C, which is the discussion and approval of the home rule sales tax. We already have a 1% sales tax in place after the municipality went home rule in the early 2000s. As every single one of us know, and I'm sure every citizen in the city of Benton knows, I know that our employees definitely know it firsthand, especially those in public works, but maybe for those who live on the east side of town, and we have to drive on East Main quite often, we know how bad our infrastructure has gotten. This is not an overnight, this problem wasn't created overnight, and it can't be fixed overnight. But it has to be done, and with the amount of money that the Illinois Department of Transportation is getting ready to dump into our community with the, essentially the complete reconstruction of West Main, followed by a near complete reconstruction of East Main. They're going to do the square, they're going to do Bailey Lane starting this summer. There are a lot of projects, and we have to be ready for them, which is moving a water and sewer line on West Main. I know that we've been saving well before I got here, and I know that it's still a process. You have two options, because when we start this project, we'll have roughly 55% of West Main paid for. Guys, the city's been saving for West Main for about 4 years, and you've got 55% of it saved. And then East Main is probably going to be cost just as much as West Main does. And that's just two projects. We have sewer lines that need replaced. We have other water lines that need replaced. South Main needs something done on the end of it to increase pressure. Like, we know we have these problems. There are two ways you can pay when you loan this. You can raise property taxes. And property taxes are already very high as they are, where you can go to a sales tax. When the county implemented the 1% sales tax to pay for the courthouse and their infrastructure, their feasibility study told them that roughly 30 to 35% of that tax contributed would not come from the locality, which means 65 to 70% was coming from your direct taxpayer, and the other part of it was coming from those traveling through, which means roughly a third of that courthouse, right adjacent to us, is being paid for by people not in our community, not property owners. I don't sit here lightly to talk about raising a sales tax, but this is the only way we fix our infrastructure problem that is continuing to get worse. Because either IDOT is going to abandon the projects that we need to do our main streets with, or they're gonna do it themselves and then send us a bill. And the bill's probably going to be substantially higher than if we do it ourselves. And, our bids, the contractors that we have that do our infrastructure work, they're local contractors. So we have a chance to keep our money in our community and recycle those dollars locally as well. We are not voting to install a sales tax tonight. This is just permission to begin the process of putting one in place. In order to have it on the books on January 1, this council will need to inform the Illinois Department of Revenue by October 1. The county is expecting their sales tax to drop off no later than the end of the first quarter of 2026. A tax that was put on there with a sunset that will come off in half the time because they were able to pay, and you look at the things that they were able to do with that money. Like, again, I hate taxes. I'm a small business owner that does retail. So not only do I have to pay it when I go to the store, I pay it every single month in the Department of Revenue when I do my ST1. We are not raising taxes on groceries or pharmaceuticals or titled vehicles. This is standard goods. On top of it, this council has chosen to not reinstall the grocery sales tax that is coming off on January 1st. Because the state made the choice to put it in the hands of the locality. We have not acted on that. This is just general sales. As far as the amounts that we talked about, the last month of the fiscal year for last year, we did about $70,000 in home rule sales tax. Combine that across 12 months, that's over $800,000 of annual revenue that we can dump directly back into our infrastructure. And this isn't a situation like previous councils that promised our sales tax money to other entities that we never get to recapture. This goes directly back into our city and directly back into our infrastructure. I'm not gonna be here forever, none of us are gonna be here forever, but if we're going to get after this, it has to be done now. I know that going back to the taxpayer is not the best option, but you've got two options. You either do it through sales tax, or you do it through property taxes, because as you heard our civil engineer talk about, was it the last meeting, grants are hard to come by. And we have a better shot at doing these projects if we're not able to get a loan from a local bank. We can probably do these loans through the EPA or the Illinois EPA. And then you have a shot of getting some forgiveness. And you know what, if they forgive 5 or 10%, that's better than nothing. I've built the budget the last 2 years. Again, I don't know what this city does if you don't have a way to pay for it. If you put the sales tax in place, you can go to the banks. Guys, hey, we have this fund coming in. It's the exact same thing the schools have done with the 1% money that they've got coming in now. The city of Marion's budget is almost entirely made up of home rule sales tax monies. So we can have the conversation. My plan is to not sunset it because I think it needs to be restricted directly towards infrastructure. And you've got that money coming in every year to do infrastructure projects. You can bond against it. And now when we have, we had to have a conversation last August when we had the issues on McLeansboro Street, when the manholes collapsed. How are we gonna pay for it? Luckily, we still had some money stuffed back in a rainy day fund, but that's not always going to be there either with the spending that we do. So what I'm asking is for council's approval to begin the process of drawing up an ordinance to install a 1% home rule sales tax. Guys, that is 1 cent on every dollar that you spend on general merchandise. You go buy a vehicle from Weeks or Kirkpatrick or Jamerson, you're not paying this tax. You go buy groceries, you're not paying this tax. Your eyeglasses, your pharmaceuticals, you're not paying this tax. When you go through Arby's or you go to Huck's and get a candy bar, that's where you're gonna pay the tax. The nice thing is if we go to the sales tax, those visiting our community will pay the tax as well, not just our property owners. And my hope, as I told you guys back in the fall when we did the tax levy for the upcoming year, this was the first year that I could find as far as recent, in the last 8 years, that we didn't do the full 5%. I chose to do 4. If we can get this in place next fall, we're going to do a smaller amount on the property tax levy. It also gives us wiggle room when we're not dumping oodles and oodles of money on fixing water leaks. Because now we can hold rates steady when we recapture our water loss. This is something that I think ultimately makes the city better.
This becomes the first domino.
This becomes the first domino, and I've had the conversations with Craig Miles and Rodney, and, I mean, again, there's gonna be blowback in the community, I'm sure people are gonna be really upset, but I think the vast majority of the people that are going to throw a fit over this are the same ones that are pissed off all the time that East Main is torn up, or that West Main is torn up, because we've had to tear it up from, I mean,
Or McLeansboro Street's the condition it's in.
last year, IDOT overlaid East Main against their better judgment, and it lasted a week before we had to cut it up and fix the water leak. That's so embarrassing.
And IDOT has in their plan to redo East Main in 2030. They told us that.
Yes.
That's in their plan for East Main. That's their target date for 2030. Now, they got West Main ahead of that, but so we got a plan to get this stuff done
And we can't,
before they get there.
and if we're able to capture grants at that time, that's fantastic, that's awesome. But we can't rely on grants to pay for it, because they're not a constant, they're not a guarantee.
And then when the federal government's clamping down on grants and the reporting side of it and the
Well, if
information you
we
gotta have
have-
up front, it's restricting.
If
Yes.
we have leverage, EPA's gonna look at it different too. We'll get EPA, I mean, they're all gonna look at it that way.
Yeah.
We got some way open revenue stream.
I mean, I'm wide open for discussion.
What will our taxes be then? What will the percent?
1%,
1%?
1 penny on every dollar, $1.
That makes it what?
It'll, when the
10%?
when the county's tax falls off at some time in the first quarter, which could potentially be January 1, there's a distinct possibility, if that courthouse is paid off, the county's tax falls off and ours installs, which means if that's the case, the number will remain exactly the same.
Yeah.
There could be a potential overlap for a quarter where sales tax in the Benton proper is 10.5% and then drops to 9.5%. I look at it this way, I would rather start at 1 than start something small at a quarter or a half of a basis point and then have to come back and raise it again. If it's a situation where the windfall is much greater than we anticipated, the council can come back and reduce that amount. On top of it, guys, this is a home rule sales tax. We are a home rule community. So if we happen to get all the infrastructure projects, loaned out, paid for, done, and the next council decides we want to terminate this sales tax, terminate it. My hope would be, you know what, we're gonna lower the tax levy. Not just raise it a smaller number, but actually lower the tax levy going forward and you gotta remember, guys, those who are living in government subsidized housing are not paying property taxes, but they're buying stuff. Like, there's 100 different ways we can talk about this. I don't think a sunset is appropriate because we have a lot of infrastructure projects that have to be done.
And some we don't even know what they are.
No.
At this point.
No, I mean, we have water lines all around the city that we have no earthly idea where they're at until they break. So, like, we have issues that we have to correct.
They're the original, when this town was built, when the first water system put in.
I mean, we got someone sitting at this table, there's nobody that knows this water system better than Commissioner Cochran. I mean,
Read that, okay.
For right or wrong, good or bad, it's true.
Let me say this, I'll try not to make a big speech here, but the city has made some progress over the years on the water system. I can name off street after street we've done. But what they've always not done is their main streets.
And
South Main, West Main, East Main. Now, North Main, we have done some. We've done Joplin up to the square. We've done part of it, up to Bond Street up a little bit. We've done the project all the way up north on 37 by East Hardware. We've got all that done. So it's not like the city hasn't done anything. I always try to stress that. We've done North and South McLeansboro. We've done East Church Webster Street. The city has a lot of infrastructure that's been done. It really has. We've got probably in my career, we've probably got 10 or 12 CDAP grants and job after job. But what they've never done is our main arteries coming into town Our public squares have been replaced, we don't have lakes up there, but it's still old mains. So we built a new courthouse and, you know, I mean, it's just something that has to be done, it's not gonna get no better. And you're right, East Main is a tragedy when they went and overlaid that. And IDOT's telling us, they're, here, we're coming, they got it in their budget, and if we don't act, I mean,
I agree, and I just have to say, you wanna go ahead and put that to motion,
Again, we're not installing it tonight.
just permission to move forward.
Permission to move forward. When we're ready, I would like to do a public hearing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Before.
before we do it.
Yeah.
But again,
I'd be glad to have a public hearing.
this council, whether they wanna waffle or not, if this council fails to put that in place, you're gonna have to find a way to pay for a lot of projects with money that we don't have and probably won't have for the life of those projects. So,
Well,
I-
how about this, we could actually have a way to raise water rates,
higher than they are,
you know what I mean?
yes.
So how's everybody like, how's everybody like that idea?
I've never voted for high water rates.
There you go.
So, I make
You
a
have to have a
motion,
revenue stream, you have to have a revenue stream.
I make a motion to allow for the council to move forward with preparing legislation to install a 1% homeowner sales tax restricted for infrastructure improvements within the city of Pitt.
I'll second it.
You can do the home, the sales tax will be separate, but you can restrict it to current.
Yeah.
You just do the sales tax, is what you're asking for.
Yeah.
Do something
Yeah.
like, if it's implemented,
That's
then
fine.
you can restrict it.
That's fine.
Commissioner Cochran?
Yes.
Commissioner Short?
I'm not for the tax, I don't like taxes, but I can see the light on this one. I've been here 10 years, almost 10. I can see the, and I keep telling myself, don't vote for it. I do, we need it, so I do vote this.
Commissioner Garvelia?
Yes, and I'm glad that you're going to have it in.
Commissioner Hicks?
Yes.
Yes.
It's all I've got, another long-winded speech from the financial chair.
Chris, I appreciate you explaining, hey, Chris, I thank you for explaining that to us.
Thank you.
You went in detail, you went every way you could, I really appreciate that, okay?
Any miscellaneous business from the council?
I don't know if this falls into miscellaneous new business or what, but, there's one thing with our agenda that has always bothered me, and that is that, items are put on the agenda, we have them, and they're on display for 4 days, and then we have a meeting, and we vote on those items, and the public doesn't have any opportunity to voice their opinion, and that troubles me, because we represent the people. And the only time we have public comments after we've taken all of our voting items, all of our action items. I would like for us to consider changing our agenda where our people have the opportunity to address the, action items on our agenda, have a voice on those action items so we can hear their opinions before we make our votes. In other words, there'll be 2 opportunities for the public to speak. One, when it's on an action item, and that would be before we do any voting, and then just public comments at the end. Vote being restricted in time and all of that, but I think we owe that to the people, that we give them the opportunity to voice their opinion. That's,
I'm writing it down as you're saying it.
okay.
Have you looked at any other municipalities to see
No,
how they do
I
it?
don't have the opportunity.
I would be interested to see what they do and how they do it, what we can do legally, and what our guidelines and bylaws and whatnot say.
My opinion is, the city people elected us for a position to represent the city. And, I mean, it's fine to hear the public, I don't have a problem with the public, but I just think we got a responsibility as a council to make some tough decisions. And, if we start getting opinions from everybody before we make them, I just think, I think we need to, it's just how it works.
I know that
thinking of when she was
And
talking.
I know that ruffles a lot of feathers with people, because those agendas tend to get very ambiguous, and, you know, they are not nearly in depth as our agendas are. So I mean, I think that's absolutely worth discussing and exploring. I think there are, I mean, if you do two, I've never said, I was gonna say, I don't know the municipality that does two. I do like it at the end, because at least if we do something that's not very popular, we get chastised after our vote, and then we can revisit it at the next council meeting.
And I think that's the thing, is it
We've
can always,
done
it
that
always
before.
come back.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think there's pros and cons to both sides. I like it at the end, but I can see both sides of it, so.
Okay.
And another thing I'd like to say is that I think we need to be stronger at enforcing that people go to the podium and they don't come to the table without permission or pass out materials or anything like that. And part of that's safety for safety.
I've attended a lot of council meetings in all of Southern in towns in my career. I've never remember anybody doing that. It's always after public opinions is happening. Never before. Maybe I'm wrong, but I've worked for a lot of municipalities in Southern Illinois.
What was it, do they have theirs
I think they do theirs at the end.
in first?
No, I think West City does theirs at the back of their show. But I mean, that's an easy one to figure out. We just gotta go find a bunch of different agendas and see what it looks like.
Exactly, and all those will be listed, posted.
I would hope we'd be able to find those publicly listed,
I
so
read them in
Well,
Southern,
Frankfurt has theirs before.
it might.
I read them in Southern Illinois, the agendas for a lot of towns, they publish them.
Well, it should be.
Yeah. What, you know, and I never see it.
Oh, and another thing I'd like to bring up is we need to get a bulletin board, an LED display sign somewhere. We need to find a location and get something so that we can get information out to the public, because we can't, everybody doesn't get on Facebook or, you know, any of that, and, newspapers are becoming a thing of the past, unfortunately. We need a place that we can display our information and get it out to the public. Events, everything.
Well, the county just installed one today.
I know.
Sure did.
All right, so under old business, a couple of things that I have is, one, revisiting what we've talked about in regards to homelessness and drugs and housing and all those conversations we going on. I've met with Mike Tyson, who's sitting second row here behind our chief. He and I have met a number of times, had a number of conversations, and I've invited he and Justin, who's the new Take Action Director, to just come and share a little bit. They did a town hall down in West Frankfurt. They're doing some things a little bit differently and Take Action, which is I know they're two different places, but I'm kind of under the old business. I'd like for you guys just take a few minutes, educate the council, educate me, and kind of catch us up to speed on what's being done. We're trying to wrestle with the homeless conversation here in Benton, but then also dealing with the homes. Like these two guys are dealing with the front line of the homes. He's dealing with the front line of homes. We've got drug task force. We got a lot of layers. So if you guys if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium just so that they can see your faces. But if you guys wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit. He gave me more information than I could digest to bring back to the council effectively. And so I said, why don't you just come share this with us?
Absolutely. Mayor Messerschmidt, I really appreciate you inviting me this evening to share with you guys, and I appreciate you guys for allowing me space to talk about these important issues, really to all of us and to all of our community members. I also want to commend you guys for taking time to discuss all of these very complex issues. Oftentimes, as a community member, we don't realize how layered a lot of these issues are, especially when you approach them from a municipal government standpoint. Before I got involved in this stuff, I never knew that type of things either. Fortunately now I've been able to experience this for about 4 or 5 years, and it's really increased my understanding of the complex nature that we are facing here in rural communities like Benton and like West Frankfurt. To provide a little bit of background information for everybody, I am the founder and former executive director for Take Action Today. We are not an agency or organization that began somewhere else. We actually began as a community action group in West Frankfurt because of the increasing homeless problem that we noticed back in 2019. One of the things that we also observed was that there was nobody from outside of our community coming to save our community. We wanted to create community-oriented actions that we could take to actually address these issues, rather than pointing fingers at people, asking the police why they're not locking more of these people up, asking the state's attorney why they're not prosecuting more of these issues. Why do we have an increasing homeless problem? Where does substance use lie in all of this? And then how do we move forward out of it? It's a very complex issue because when we got started, we went around asking the same questions. What's being done about this issue in our community? But what we found out was that there was no workforce to be doing anything about it. There was nobody working on this issue. What few social workers we had, what few mental health providers we had, what law enforcement we have is buried above their head, trying to keep up with all of the normal issues that they have to deal with, let alone to deal with a homeless problem that is surging across our country. And I think that that's something important to understand, is that from sea to shining sea, we are seeing an increase in homelessness that is exponential. And it's a very complex issue. It's not always related to substance use. What we've learned is that there's really a couple different layers of homelessness, but they can really be divided between, individuals that experience temporary homelessness and individuals that experience chronic homelessness. Chronic homelessness is when somebody experiences more than 12 months of homelessness in a 2-year period, typically due to disability, such as untreated mental health. As many of you guys know, because you have been so amazingly supportive of our programs here in Benton, we run a warming center over here just north of Mach 1. It is overwhelming the amount of untreated mental health that we are seeing with our community members who are experiencing chronic homelessness. It is overwhelming to understand what it is like for a person who is returning to our community, who has served a sentence in prison, to come back here, not be able to find jobs, not be able to find housing, not be able to find any supportive services to deal with the issues that they are dealing with. And why do we not have these services in our community? This is a big challenge that we have to face as West Frankfort, Franklin County has dealt with generational poverty, generational incarceration, generational substance use issues, generational mental health issues. And so what we wanted to do was begin looking for solutions. It's real easy to talk about the problem, but how do you talk about the solution? At Take Action Today, we're a recovery-oriented organization. We're more interested in the conversation of what happens to people after they start getting better. What do they do with their life? How do they get jobs? How do they grow in skills? One of the amazing things about our organization is that we are what's called a peer-led organization. So almost our entire organization is people who have experienced these issues. I have experienced homelessness. I grew up in the juvenile justice system back in the 90s. I experienced crack addiction. I am a convicted felon. I also have a family. I also have a master's degree that I just recently earned. I have many things that I have been able to accomplish in my life because I was allowed to recover and because I was allowed to build a life where people supported me and I found the resources that I need. So that's kind of how we're oriented. We are interested in developing community-oriented solutions that involve resources and support for people who experience chronic substance use and chronic homelessness. If you guys don't mind, may I present you some material? I know you said you. I want to respect that. No, I totally get that. I don't want to play live. So as everyone knows, we do a warming center. We've done it for the past 2 years over here in Benton West City. Every year we produce a report that goes over kind of our outcomes and some of our experiences. I'd like to share that with you guys so that you can have something to take home and read when you have nothing better to do. At Take Action Today, we pride ourselves in transparency. We pride ourselves in informing the community and the public because we know we can't do what we do without you. I was talking with Mayor Messersmith this morning about the support that we've received as an organization from the city of Benton, how it's much more important than just dollar signs. When you have a city that backs you and supports you in these issues, it can carry a lot more weight than when just somebody like Mike Tyson stands up here and talks about homelessness. And believe me, I understand how difficult it is to advocate for homelessness services, substance use services, after talking about how much, the city struggles with its infrastructure. You know, so everything has to be taken into perspective, that you guys are dealing with complex issues. So this past winter, we had roughly 59 different individuals come through our warming center and stay at least one night. We averaged about 15 people every night. We manage our warming center as a temporary program. So what that means is it doesn't fit into any of our grant budget lines. We don't have any funding to do this. We do our warming center out of the money that we're able to raise from the community, from community organizations, from amazing donations like that made by this city. Also the Ministerial Alliance, the Elks Club. We've received donations from the county board before also. You know, it helps us to be able to deliver these services and to offer this bed to individuals on a temporary basis. We roughly run the warming center for 90 days, about from December 1st to February 28th, something like that, depending on the weather. What makes the warming center really neat is while the warming center provides warm, safe space from 8 to 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., our resource center operates during the day. So residents typically stay around our resource center. While there, they have access to other services. Our staff are trained, certified peer recovery specialists. They're non-clinical case managers that know how to connect individuals to other resource centers. We transport people to shelters. We transport people to treatment. We buy bus tickets to individuals to get them to other areas that may have more resources. Because as best we can, there are just not enough beds in Southern Illinois. Even if you talk about substance use, if you think about 400,000 people in the lower 35 counties, there's about 67 beds that people can take advantage of. So that's not enough bed space for the issues that we're dealing with. So we try to connect people where we can. We also take people to programs in other states and stuff like that. And the warming center closes. One of the biggest tools that the warming center has been is that it has given us insight into what people are going through in the community. When we started this, we had no clue what people were experiencing. I've experienced homelessness. That was a lot of couch surfing. When I was a kid, people that took me in. I was getting older, and that was when I got out of it because people were having less pity on me. You know, but what are people like having in our community? How do we know that? You can't make decisions on problems that you don't really understand the problem. All you can do is make decisions based on your understanding of it. Well, if you don't really know what your community is experiencing, if you don't really know what options and opportunities and solutions are out there, you don't really know how to make a good decision. So our warming center acts as a good tool for learning what the community is going through. We operate resource centers here in Benton, West Frankfort, Johnson City, Marion, and Carbondale. So we kind of get a good broad range idea of what homelessness is like in multiple communities in Southern Illinois. And then we take that information and we utilize it in grant writing, we utilize it in advocacy. I just returned from the Home Illinois Summit up in Chicago. I'm going to tell you, much as you probably already know, individuals up there have no clue what we're going through down here. They have no interest in what we are going through down here. There are no solutions, there are no government agencies coming to save our community members. It's completely up to us. We have to work together. One of the things that we've done in the past few months, Mayor Arview in West Frankfort, which is where I live, I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, he called a task force back in January, the West Frankfort Coalition for Homeless. Mayor Messersmith mentioned earlier that we just held a town hall. We wanted to figure out solutions, how we could come together as a community and start addressing this challenge rather than just complaining about it on Facebook. You know, because individuals are not going anywhere. As I mentioned earlier, homelessness is surging all across the state. If I may give you guys one more piece of information. This is information on our coalition, just to give you guys a little background on it. Some of our purposes and objectives. So, to be completely transparent, this coalition is absolutely completely separate from Take Action Today. This is something, the task force was started by Mayor Arview, and one of the first decisions that we decided as a coalition, we wanted to start a not-for-profit. to actually start working on physical services, places that people could volunteer, because what we found out about the community of Frankfurt, through our town hall, we had about 34 people show up. Amazingly positive conversations about one of the most polarizing topics you can talk about. You know, we had people, I have a page of people who signed up to volunteer, signed up to learn more about how they can be a part of these solutions. So what we found is that the community does want to get involved. They do want to be parts of the solution, they just don't know what to do. So they're looking towards either agencies, large agencies or government people to come in with solutions. So we're trying to do that from a more grassroots perspective. As I said, this has a little bit of information about the Coalition Task Force. The task force meets the second Monday of every month. Right now we're meeting at Gambit Coffee. But as I said, we've also started a not-for-profit. We're having some great conversations around the idea of homelessness, what to actually do about it, how to take things from a conversation about solutions to actually doing something, creating food programs, creating housing programs. One of the things that we're talking about is rezoning some land to possibly create a tiny home community. There are some very successful models in other parts of the state. There are some successful models in northern Illinois. There's an amazing tiny home community for veterans in St. Louis. There's an amazing tiny home community in Austin, Texas, called Community First Village. So there are people out there from the community perspective finding ways to develop resources and supports that actually help people climb their way out of homelessness. And it's hard, it's not easy to do, and it takes all of us. I can give all the resources I want to individuals, I can take people to treatment all I want. Chief Funkhauser, I hope I just said your name right. So I was worried about it, it's a funky name. But they can block people up, but eventually these people come back to our communities. And they're gonna come back to our communities in a worse situation than they left most times. And if they don't have the supports, and they don't have the resources, they're gonna be a former offender no matter what. What's a more dangerous offender? One that doesn't have any options, or one that does? And that's a complex question to answer.
So I want to jump in just.
Yeah, go ahead, I can get along with it.
I knew that's where we were headed, so I'm jumping in. Council, I'll tell you a story, and I've never done this before. 2 weeks ago, I had my neighbor across the street say, "Hey, there's a guy in your yard." Okay. Turns out that we're on the sidewalk, and I went out there and engaged the person to find out what was going on. They had dealt with drugs, they had dealt with alcohol, they had been to Franklin Hospital, they kept them overnight, and they dismissed that person the next day. The person could barely walk, they were struggling, they were obviously malnutrition, and finally, I was like, "Where are you going, what are you looking for, what do you need to do?" They were not from Benton, and they said, "Well, I'm trying," I said, "Have you contacted any organizations?" And they said, "No, not really." This person didn't think so, so I gave a call to there, and actually Justin, when I talked to Justin was like, "We've been looking for that person since 9:30 this morning. We were supposed to take him over to, detox? Yeah, drug treatment." And so fortunately, I physically had to walk the person down to the fire department, in front of the fire department, down to Washington Street. They came and picked him up, immediately took that person there. We've started talking in the last 3-4 meetings, we've had a conversation about what to do with homelessness. We are going to have to engage those people in those conversations. And I'll be honest, we as a municipality are not equipped to have those conversations. I did it just because my background is pastor leadership, so I could go have that as a shepherd pastor person and have the conversation. But as far as being equipped as a municipality, we don't have the tools or skill sets or abilities. And so that's why I've been starting to meet with it. And I didn't realize that you said you did a town hall meeting in Benton in 2022.
Yes.
About this specific topic.
Yep, as I said.
And I was even the commissioner and I missed that.
Yeah, well, were you commissioner
Is it
then?
the old city hall?
No, we had it at North Benton Baptist, well, nobody knew who we were at that time.
Yeah, so
Before
before it was in this room it happened, none of us knew.
Yeah.
So, but if it's one of those where, I don't know what the answer exactly is, but I know it's gonna be larger and bigger than who we are sitting at the table. And there's folks that we can engage and we can connect with, whether it's Justin directly at Take Action, or it's Mike with this coalition, And what we've even talked about is what does that look like, that it wouldn't just be potentially just Frankfurt, but someday down the road, it could grow and include all of Franklin County.
Yes.
And that's part of that conversation. If we're gonna address it, and here's the reality, and Chief probably can speak to this. Being the county seat, people that are homeless being incarcerated, putting in Franklin County Jail, they're getting spit back out into Benton and not leaving Benton. They're also going to Franklin Hospital, like this young person that was on my sidewalk. They had come from the Beattyville, Cessor area, but they're from DuQuoin. This person was wandering around Benton, and they're not leaving Benton. So folks, they're not coming here because of opportunity, they're coming here because of being brought here for one reason or another, they're not leaving here.
Can I share something on that? I'm Justin Miller. I am the Recovery Services Coordinator and Site Supervisor of our West City Benton Resource Center. I ran the warming center. While I'd love to tell you that when the people come, we have the services just to send them to places, the truth is the closest homeless shelter that will actually work with most of the population we have takes a total of 28 people, 14 males, 14 females. If somebody is suffering from severe schizophrenia, if somebody is suffering with severe drug use or has a bad record or a bad charge on their record, they're not getting into these places. The next the two other ones, Lighthouse and Lifeboat, both of them have such hard restrictions on people that if they have marijuana in their system, they're not getting into this shelter. If they've even been arrested if they got into a fight when they were 15 or 16, they're getting told, well, you can't come in, and it's a woman's shelter. So I'd love to tell you that there's, places to take these people, like Mike said, we're having to go out of state to take individuals. It's 1 in 4,000 chance that if you have a drug addiction in Southern Illinois, from the lower, and they count from East St. Louis down, it's not from Mount Vernon down, it's 1 in 4,000 chance that you can get a bed to just get into detox. And then what happens after detox is, they put you on a bus back to Benton to take Action Today where we came and got them from, and then they have no place to go. So these issues, we're gonna have to, like Mike said, address it as a community. I was in addiction for over 20 years. I was 8 years homeless in my life. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I now own a home. I'm a pastor of the church. I went from being an individual who would only work in the coal mines to actually having a Title Life Recovery Services Coordinator. I have a heart for these people, not because I was one and all that. I truly have a heart for these people because that's what God's called me to do. But I am seeing that more and more people are being dropped off on our streets and we have nowhere to send them. They're going to jail and then when they get released, they're just being released back on the streets and though they come to us, I have nowhere to take them. So that's like Mayor said, Messerschmidt said,
Just leave.
that's fine.
It's not,
Yeah,
it's
that's
not as
a
fun as
tongue
Funkhauser.
Yeah, no, that's a tongue twister. But we as a community are gonna have to start coming up with solutions. Our services are siloed, everything's being pushed in different directions, and we're gonna have to kind of get back to just being grounded and find a core base to build off of a good foundation. And from there you can see change, but it starts with compassion in the community. It's gonna take long-term community support to fix these issues. And we can't promise they'll get fixed, but you will see change.
Awesome. Thank you both very much. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Just kind of under new business, but still kind of under old business, and I'm going to bypass this because we've been here a long time tonight. Chief Funkhauser has been looking at neighborhood watch conversations, so rather than going into more of that, we'll bring this back to another meeting, but the conversation has been, what are things that we can do, taking ownership as citizens, and you've done a great job, like the email that you sent. I think that's the right track in identifying neighborhoods and people. So just for the council to know that that's something we're going to continue to work on, so I appreciate you working with him and you guys working on that.
And I talked to you, Dennis Landry over there today.
Did you really? Okay, good. Good deal. Any matters from, a number of people from the public this evening, under public comment, generally it's come up, present, share your name, and it's 5 minutes as part of public comment. That way, if we are those that want to share, we give time to do that under the public comment section, matters from the public. Any public comment this evening? Hopefully, we've already alleviated and addressed most of that for you all.
We got one.
I just want to thank you, and all my neighbors want to thank you for taking action against the property on 1107 Highland. I really appreciate
It's
it.
took us a while, but we're getting it done.
Thank you. And thank these guys, especially Caleb, for his diligence in this matter.
Thank you.
City attorney too, because he had to do some
Yes.
And I just wanna say something real quick, we were just chatting, I'm glad, I came here, of course, for the place on by Glendale, but, I've been in mental health and worked with EDs for 33 years, and I recognized him, he's been to our agency and actually brought people into detox. So it kinda worked out great, because I'm gonna hook up with them, because not only can I help them, you know, with my work, but I'm also gonna try to volunteer and kind of get the word out, because the one thing that I think everybody needs to realize, whether it is drugs, homelessness, whatever, the community must be educated. And, I'm glad I came, because I think it would be nice to, you know, work together and get something done. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, you'll got one more?
I'm a speaker, so. So I just had two questions and then a comment. One was about the removal of the stuff. Does that include the vehicles, unlicensed vehicles?
So, there was a citation for that as well. But this year is strictly focusing first on the junk and debris that's also in surrounding vehicles. And the vehicles will be something that, will be right after I talk to her about it.
But that's an ordinance that you guys have in Benton too. If the car doesn't have the current plate on it. Okay. The second thing is, you're talking about the infrastructure on East Main Street. Since I've only been here a year, so I don't have much knowledge on anything, so I need to be educated a little bit, but I can't help but to notice how many oversized trucks come through the square and come around and go north on 37, I think it is. And I question, why? Where they come from? You got Highway 57 that's built for these heavy trucks. And you can imagine, anybody that's an engineer with the city, that those heavy trucks, why are they allowed to be on these city streets that aren't built for that?
They
I don't know.
can't get through this interstate, if they're over wide, they can't get through, they gotta come 37.
37 seems smaller than.
Well, but I-57 has a restriction during construction.
Like I said, I don't know the
Yeah,
answer.
so IDOT puts a restriction in the construction zone about what they can and can't do and how they do it and not do it. So that's a little bit of that.
Okay,
But
because of construction.
But we do have a number of providers, a number of businesses out there that are manufacturing, that those trucks are in the outside areas, they have to come through town just to get to 57.
I just never seen so many
Yeah.
oversized
You
trucks.
have to realize that East Main is a state highway. The
Yeah.
state maintains it.
All four of our main streets are state highways.
We're very unique, we have 3 major highways coming in.
And they are rated for truck traffic.
Okay. Our problem is the infrastructure under their highway, they own the highway. Our infrastructure's under their highway, okay, they own it. And that's where our water lines are, and we gotta get them out, we gotta get them fixed, get them out of there, or we're gonna keep digging up streets.
And the last thing, just very quickly, talking to these two gentlemen that just were up here, I'd like to, my fiance and I have been looking at homes there that we want to, I run it's not a halfway house, it's called Sober Living, and I have guys that come out of, it's called the Henry House, if you're familiar with them at all. So I run them up there in northern Chicago, and we've been looking at homes, like there's one on Main Street right now that's for sale. It's like 4 up to 5 units, possibly. It's just on North Main there, looking at it, but I don't know what the ordinance is that something the city can do? Because we're passionate to try to think of something like that,
So
to open it up to that.
Yeah, so just depending on what you're wanting to do and how you're wanting to do it, we have a gentleman right here that is our zoning czar.
It seems like there's a lot of red tape, and I'm just not.
Well, and so there are ordinances and there is zoning that kind of define what can and can't be done with particular pieces of property. And just depending on what you're wanting to do and where you're wanting to do it, Brian can help address those questions.
Okay.
Yeah. so
State
under-
regulations as well.
Yeah, so there's some limitations that are beyond us, and then some that's the city, and some we have flexibility on, that we can do it a special use permit or potentially rezoning. So it just depends on what the conversation is.
Brian will give you all the guidelines that you need on that.
So that one home seems like it's close to resources. It has to be, I know the homes I have up north there, they have to be close to transportation, jobs, food, stuff like that. And that one of them seemed like it was kind of just right up the alley there, but I haven't really looked at it yet because I wasn't sure how much this would involve, so, or if I want to get back in. I'm trying to retire.
I would call up here and find a time and meet with Brian to at least just have those conversations, and Brian can give you at least some direction, if that's what you're thinking about doing and what that looks like.
Okay, they've been very successful, and
Yeah,
guys on it, so.
then we go from there, and then I would connect with those two, especially Justin with,
Pretty sure the length on interstate is 11 foot 8 inches. Anything over that wide's gonna come out of this.
yeah.
That's just for construction?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, and as far as I understand anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is temporary maybe. Okay, thank you.
If there's nothing else from the public, you see the motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Yes. Thank you all very much for coming this evening. Let's go get your truck.
I have not forgot you.